Hey guys, welcome back to Clover Mobile. In today's video, we are talking raids again. I'll have timestamps in the description if you want to bounce around. We're going to go through teams and strategies for both sides of the boss. But before we get into that, I had a lot of comments in my previous video talking about the investment required, people having to build a lot of characters. I just want to say, don't build characters yet. At the time I'm uploading this, everyone's only done through part 1, 2, 3 at max because we've only had one day. And I want to give you guys some math so that you guys can decide what you want to do moving forward, if you want to invest into characters or not, depending on what you can get from the shop. Now, paid players, you're probably going to invest more because you get the stamina, you've just got the resources to be able to build more characters. But free to play especially, if you're feeling stressed out by having to build so many characters for the raid boss, I want to show you the minimum requirement that you have to do to still get the Versatile Mage Piece from the shop, because if we go to the shop here, it costs 500. Now, the minimum requirement you're going to have to do is to clear part 4 every day, first day excluded. Because basically, when we look at this, if you go to 4, you're essentially going to get 30 per day if you get the worst drops possible. Sorry, 30 per run at the worst drops possible, 3 runs per day, and then we've got 6 days remaining, obviously excluding the first day, and that's going to give you 540 if you get the worst rolls. So that's not including first day, not including first time clears. That's going to give you 540, which is more than enough to get your Versatile Mage Piece and have some left over. As you can see, I'm already at 104 here, and then on top of that, like I said, we'd get to 540. That gives me 140 to exchange on other things, plus the extra 35. We're up to like 175 extra currency on top of getting the Versatile Mage Piece to go ahead and buy stamina, skill upgrade materials, and stuff like that. So if you don't want to do the investment, you don't have to, as long as you can clear part 4. Now, I'm hoping most people who started Global will be able to clear part 4. We'll have to wait and see how people go. But essentially, this account I'm on is a day old, about not even a day and a half old, and I have managed to clear part 3 by using 2 characters on each side. I'm going to struggle a bit more in part 4, but maybe you've already got 5 or 6 units built. A lot of people do, and maybe you can just use those 5 or 6 units that you've got built to get through part 4 and clear that every time to get the Versatile Mage Piece plus a little bit of extra stuff, like I said. Then it's up to you whether you want to invest more into more units to get through the other stages. Like I said, it's just early days in the game. People waiting for Summon OL, still not many resources because we've been going through the early grind, and people worried about resource management. So once again, stage part 4. If you can clear part 4 every day from day 2 to day 7, you'll be able to get the Versatile Mage Piece, and that's what a lot of people are really after. So now, let's jump over here and take a look at the bosses. So basically, my takeaway from the bosses is this first one, you want to keep this guy, you want to outturn this guy. You can run with sustain if you want, but I feel like slowing him and speeding up your team is the main thing that you want to do. Basically, because he can do the extra attack. Where is it? Where's the stun? Upon performing an extra attack, inflicts stun. So over here, it performs an extra attack on an enemy if they do not have a barrier. So you can use a barrier to avoid the extra attack, or you can just basically avoid him giving the stun by just turning him out. Now, obviously, we've got radies and stuff like that to give barriers, which is nice. Or you can just basically use, a lot of people will have Lotus. Lotus was the highly recommended. So you can slow with Lotus. You can turn gauge manipulate with Lotus. You can also extend those debuffs with Lotus, which is fantastic. And then you can use some free-to-play units like Finral, Veltos to help speed up your team. And that's going to be a really nice way to turn deny, and then you're going to have some damage as well, obviously. But this one, I see the easy way, or the main way a lot of people will be doing it, more free-to-play friendly, is going to be probably turn denial and turn advantage on this boss. Okay, so now for the red guy. Now, the red guy, I feel like is one of those ones that you're going to want to bring blue units to. The other guy, I feel like you can mix around your elements, and I'll go through that in a minute. But this guy, because he's so fast and he gets like the first turn and he smacks you so hard, because if we look at his passive, he starts with this buff where he gets berserk and he gets the increased damage. He absolutely slaps shit so hard, and this may be one of those bosses where you may have to adjust your gear. For instance, if you're using a full magic attack Charmy, maybe you could put a couple defense pieces on her to help her survive, along with doing tons of healing and stuff like that. So I think this one's going to be one that you want to prioritize blue units, which is pretty nice because a lot of people built blue, but I still like Lotus in the other side, so it does leave you with one blank slot. So I want to have a bit of a chat about this one as well and look at some units. Okay, so now I want to jump over here and take a look at the bosses. We got blue. The boss one is blue. Boss 2 is red, so you get the color identification. Now, the first one I'm going to go through is boss 2, because I feel like that's the easiest one for most people, because it's a red boss, has lots of damage. You can kind of try and, live through that with blue units. And so that leaves us with, the ideal thing we're looking at here is Charmy for sustain, Yami, we've got then Mars for sustain, and then that's like a solid core. I'll talk a little bit about Lotus. I like Lotus in boss 1, but I'll talk about him in boss 2 as well. And if that's your team, pretty solid. If you don't have Mars, okay, you go with Sol. If you don't have Yami, I feel like most people built a blue damage dealer. It was probably Gauche or Solid. You put them in there, and that's how you try and work through boss 2. Now, what you can do in boss 2 is you're trying, what I like with this one is I think it's more of a stally type thing. So maybe with your Charmy and your damage dealer, maybe you put and same with your Lotus if he doesn't have any tankiness, maybe you put a couple defense pieces on them instead of full attack / magic attack, whatever it is, so that they can survive and still hang around to get him over time, because the boss does go into exhaustion, which gives you time to heal up as well. So it's sort of that, if you can resist the burst and then heal up and keep going, that's the kind of thing. But like I said, most people have a blue team built for farming gear, and you can pretty much slap that in. Now, the one caveat is, if I like Lotus in team 1, so if you have a Vengeance built, then I really like him up here. And like I said, that's sort of like your free-to-play version. If you have to, you do it like this, and then it makes boss 1 harder, but I kind of want to leave him out because I want to talk about him in that sense. But once again, if you've got Mars, then you slap Mars in there. If you've got Yami, then you go ahead and you slap blue Yami in there, and that's what I'd be pretty much looking at for boss 2. Now, ideally, that's sort of my dream team for boss 2, but like I said, I showed you the free-to-play options. Those are there. Let's jump into boss 1. Now, boss 1, I feel like turn denial is a great way to do it, or you can play tankiness with Radies and Mimosa. So if we're looking at turn denial speed, then we're looking at using either Finral or Baltos, along with Lotus. We get our speed buff here, we get ourselves boosted, we put the speed slow on with him, then we can extend that speed slow, and once we got it extended, then we just use his basic attack to keep pushing the gauge back, and that is the play with this. So that's the core with those two. And the Finral, and this is where I say don't invest too heavily in things yet. Maybe you can get away with this with a Finral at very low levels, where maybe you just use his speed boost and you die. It depends on what difficulty. You're not going to get away with a level 20 Finral, probably if you're looking at difficulty 7. But if you're trying to just get consistent difficulty 4 or 5, then you may not have to invest into Finral too much yet, even though eventually he's a good one for PvP and stuff like that. But you can just invest a little bit into him so that he can serve the function. And that's why I said I cautioned you guys away from building too many units. Like when we looked at this, you've got 3 units probably already built for this team, so you're pretty much set. And then let's keep talking about this team. So moving on from that, we can look to if we want to full YOLO it, and this is kind of one of those things where you can go a little bit more ham if you say have something like a Raya, because you've got the buffs from Finral. Maybe you could do Riot and Licht if you got a God roll, but obviously not everyone has that. If you have Raya, you can just do Raya, and then maybe you can do either a Nebra. Once again, don't recommend building straight away. Wait and see how you go, but definitely a fantastic unit. We have Incapacitate, we've got Defense Break, and we've got Attack Break on her kit. But I also feel like a lot of people may have Charlotte built, and even though Charlotte is negative element to the boss, still you get that defense break on, you have a chance to get the attack break as well, and there you go. Now the problem for this one becomes whether you don't have a good DPS, because the problem is we've got Jack who can be decent in here. I feel like Fuegolion, if you've got him built, I don't recommend building these units specifically for it once again. Hopefully you guys got 2 DPS built anyway. But I feel like a lot more people are going to have Red Yami and Asta built. Now, I don't know how well this would work, but I feel like you can still nuke with these guys even though they're of a negative element. But it's going to be a bit more tricky, and in this situation, this is where I would look to dropping our extra damage amplification, and this is where if you have Mimosa or Radies, it will be very helpful. Mimosa in this team, really nice, because then if your damage dealer dies, you can revive them and you can keep going. That's the idea here. We've got turn denial with Lotus, or turn advantage with Lotus and Finral. And then we've got damage, and then we've got our safety net here. Now, if you wanted to go the next layer on that, we could, and you've got these units built. Once again, it just depends on everyone's account and what you've got built. You can go with double supportive units, and you could have the shields, you could have the healing and the revive, you can have the turn denial with just Lotus himself, which put the slow on, extend the slow, turn gauge manipulation, then just try and get as much damage out of whatever other damage dealer you have. But like I said, I wouldn't go rushing into building things. See how you go with 4 or 5 first and play it from there. Now, the other thing is, if you're not using Lotus because you're using him down here, say he's in this team, and you're going something like this, let's say you've got the Asta or you've got him, hopefully you've got like Licht or Raya, one of those two, and you can go, if you've got Fuegoleon or Jack built, then you can always just slap them in there as well to get some damage out of them. But I wouldn't recommend like building like, you know, SR just for this boss. I just think it's a bit too far to go. But once again, then if you've only got those two, then you can look to doing something like maybe we go with Veltos, because Veltos is on element, he's going to live, or you can just go back to Finral. It doesn't really matter which way you play it. You can go Finral with this, and you're pretty much set to go from there. Maybe you even try going Nebra, but once again, less people have her built, so I'm not going to recommend people to build her straight away, especially free to play. If you're a whale, go nuts, build things. But that's what you're kind of looking at up there. You're looking at either complete turn denial on boss 1, or sustain on boss 1, and boss 2 I feel like is blue with sustain, and that's kind of the way I'm playing it. Once again, don't go rushing into building units. Wait until you get stuck and you start losing on a stage, and then sort of see where your pitfalls are and adjust from there. Like I said, it's impossible to give you guys a blanket right wrong type thing, but in general, you just got to play it by ear and see how you go. And like I said, the most you need, the least you can do and still be guaranteed is if you're over here and you're clearing difficulty 4, part 4, you're still going to be able to get that main reward that we want, which is going to be that Versatile Mage Piece, which is really nice. Anything past that allows you to get some more stamina, some more skill upgrades, and stuff like that. Anyway, I'm going to shut up now. Thanks for watching. Hope you have an awesome day, and I look forward to seeing the next one. Cheers.